Today's review is on Aimovig. If you've never seen one of our videos before, our reviews are based on two things. Number one, how good is this drug compared to other options? And number two, how much is it going to cost in comparison to other options? And based on those two factors, we come up with our rating. So starting out with the comparison versus other options, we have to divide the other options into two categories. So number one would be the oral preventative drugs. And this includes drugs such as antidepressants, beta blockers, and anti-epileptic drugs. And the second category, we're just going to put in our other new drugs. This includes other new CGRP drugs like Emgality and Ajovy, but it also includes other drugs like Botox. So how does this drug compare to the old oral alternatives? As far as effectiveness, and by effectiveness we're defining that as ability to reduce the number of headaches, reduce the length of headaches, and to reduce the intensity of headaches. Based on the effectiveness, it's not proven to be any more or less effective than the oral alternatives, which includes the beta blockers, antidepressants, and anti-epileptics. So what's the big deal if it's not any better than the older and less expensive drugs? So two words, side effects. The oral alternatives, as you've heard in the name, they're not exactly designed for migraine. And as a result, they tend to have a lot of unwanted effects. Beta blockers, for example, they're used for people with hypertension, high blood pressure. And if you give it to someone who does not have hypertension, well, guess what? Their blood pressure still goes down anyway, and that often creates a tiredness that causes people not to be able to take these drugs. The American Headache Society, which is a governing body that basically comes up with the guidelines on how to treat migraines. They note in their statement that very few people have taken these alternatives, or, well, I shouldn't say that have not tried to take them, but are not currently on them. They estimate that less than 10% of people who are eligible to take these drugs are currently on them, and it's mainly due to the side effects that people get from them. And I shouldn't, without going into too much detail, I don't think it would take too much of a stretch of the imagination for the average person to look at, let's say, antidepressants or anti-epileptics and come to the conclusion that it's probably best to not take one of those kinds of drugs if you don't have depression, for example. It will, if someone has normal mood, it will still affect their mood, and hopefully not so much in hopefully not in a really bad way, but that's basically the issue with the oral alternatives. So how does it compare against some of the newer options? So other CGRPs, Emgality, Ajovy, and some other drugs like Botox. Well, there haven't been any head-to-head studies done, and similar to the oral alternatives, there's no reason to suspect that it is any more or less effective than any of the other newer drugs. Botox works differently, but again, there haven't really been any studies, and there's just no compelling circumstantial evidence or other evidence to really assume that it would be significantly better or worse in general, or even in certain cases. So that's how it is effectiveness-wise. Not effective, more effective than, at least there's no evidence that it's more effective than anything else out there, but has potentially a lot less side effects than at least the oral alternatives. Could there potentially be long-term effects? Of course, but there is nothing that is really showing up right now that would cause people to be concerned, or to be concerned in even a general population, let's say people who have kidney problems or liver problems. Nothing has shown up so far. And in fact, again, the guidelines note that the side effect or tolerability profile of this drug is very good, and they note that it's very similar to that of placebo, which is basically inactive ingredients. So how does the price stack up then if it's not any better than other drugs? Well, I can fortunately tell you that it is possibly the least expensive option out of all of the newer options, and it can even sometimes be less expensive than the oral alternatives, which are typically about $10 generics. So the oral alternatives, of course, they've been generic for a long time. Generally, you can pick up a drug like that for about $10 to $20 a month, so not expensive. This drug, I would say, in general, even though the list price is quite high, there's almost never a situation where someone is not going to be able to afford it. There are a lot of different techniques that we can use to get the price down, and it's typically pretty easy to get covered through insurance, where we've done, I would say, at least over 1,000 Aimovig and several thousand just CGRP class in general. And we have no problems getting it covered, and I can't think of a situation where we have not been able to get someone to afford it. Most of the time, people are paying $0 or very, very close to that number. So I would say, affordability-wise, definitely the most affordable new option of the CGRPs in comparison to all the other ones that are currently available right now, including Botox. Our final rating for this drug is going to be a 4 out of 5. So very, very solid. Not more effective than the older drugs or any other drugs that are out there right now, but compared to the older treatments, it has a much better tolerability profile, and there don't seem to be, at least as of right now, a lot of negative effects that prevent it from being used in a lot of people, and that's been what the main draw of this drug is. There have been treatments to prevent migraines, but they have had their issues as far as tolerability due to the side effects, and this drug seems to be a great help for those people to be able to get a lot more people to have an option that they can take on a daily basis that's not going to make them tired or have long-term effects like antidepressants. They often have long-term effects with their use, or anti-epileptics. They have another set of side effects that are going to be undesirable in people that don't have that condition. And for the price, it's a very, very affordable option. There's almost no one who's not going to be able to afford this drug. So based on the price and what it's giving to people, we're going to give it a very solid 4 out of 5. I hope you found this video informative and helpful. If you have any problems getting this drug covered or it's too expensive, contact us immediately at Sustain Meds. We have a tremendous amount of experience in getting this drug covered and the cost down. Not only this drug, but really any migraine drug. We work with a lot of neurologists on all kinds of drugs for the treatment of migraine headaches. So if you're interested, give us a call or fill out our online contact form, and we'll get back to you shortly. Subscribe to our channel for updates. We'll keep you updated on pricing and new options that are available for this drug and many other potential treatments that are going to be coming out for migraines as well. Or subscribe to our email list and we'll keep you up to date. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you around.